Okay, so we're checking out Killing Floor 2, now finally coming over to be more generally accepted by gamers on many more platforms.
Yeah.
So how excited are you to actually bring it to those weird boxes with little gamepads in front of them?
We're super excited. As you know, we've been a PC house for 11 years now, and this is our first console title. And for us, this was the first game that really made sense. We felt like the hardware is finally at the point where we want it to be for consoles. And we just feel like the nature of the Killing Floor game is a perfect entry into the console market.
Wonderful. And have you encountered any challenge bringing it across? I know you've had gamepad support on the PC version before, but were there any real challenges for you bringing it across to console that you didn't quite anticipate?
No, actually, when we first started development, our goal was to develop for both without making any sacrifices. So, what you see there is exactly the same as the PC version. We're really happy with that. I would say, like a general challenge is, this is a highly modified game off the Unreal 3 engine. So just getting it to squeezing all the juice out that we can to get the frame rate as high as we want. Our goal is to have it at 60 frames a second, even with, everything blowing up, and, we have like a really advanced score system, and we're really close to that, and we're really proud.
Yeah, taking a look at it over on the other side of the room here, it really does give you the same. It looks exactly the same experience as we're getting on PC, really, which I find very surprising, especially with, like, as you mentioned, the gore system.
Yeah.
Ridiculously over the top, pumping blood out all over the place. It's kind of staggering to actually see it working on a console. So you've kind of gradually added these bits and pieces in over time, like for example the update to the gore system where you kind of patched that in and all of a sudden it's like bloodbath everywhere. How have you sort of implemented those over time? Has that been based on like strong feedback from your current player base, or are those things that you've had planned out well in advance?
So I would say it's a mixture of the two. A lot of actual additional content will be something that we've had planned for a while, and then a lot of the actual balance changes we're getting a lot of feedback from the players. We have analytics systems so we can see like win rates and the different difficulties, what maps people are playing when they're dying, how much dosh they're earning when they're playing it, and that's helping us tune the game, and we're also listening to forum feedback and all those types of things. And there are things we'll read the community be like, oh man, it'd be so cool if they added this weapon. And I can say, we write it down. It goes on a list. We have a list, big backlog of
big cool weapon lists, right?
Yeah.
And
just like in the first Killing Floor, we supported that and updated it for 7 years.
Yeah.
And we have that same type of plans for KF2. And we've actually structured a lot of our systems to allow us to be able to expand that even more without bloating the memory. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited about that. That was one of the challenges in KF1. We would keep adding more content, but then the RAM needed and the memory would get bigger and bigger because we didn't have it architected in a way that we could constantly keep adding content. But in our new game, we have figured, we cracked that nut. So we're pretty excited. Even when this game comes out, it's going to be this fall. Definitely will be this fall. But going into next year, there will be new stuff. Just like we did for KF1.
Yeah, and that's actually pretty impressive to me as well, because there's so many games that they get their DLC developed for them, or even just expansions, not necessarily DLC, and then they hit that wall and it's a must to move to the next title because that's it, they've shored themselves in because they've got the bloat in, or the RAM restrictions, or what have you. Yeah. So to know that you guys don't have that barrier in place and you're kind of free to roam as you will is really reassuring for the future of the game. So as far as the future is concerned, what do you have in your sights for the future? Is there any kind of wonderful nuggets that you can share with us for it?
Well, if I say anything and then it doesn't exactly happen that way, the internet will be very mean to us. So we do have a lot of cool stuff. I can say, just like in Killing Floor 1, we did like special event things, for like Christmas and Halloween, and we think those are all really cool. So,
Okay, in a perfect world,
yeah.
what direction would you like to move into next? That's no promises. That's no, murdering you if you don't do it. What in your perfect world, what direction would you like to take the game in?
I mean, for me, I would be really happy if the community keeps making additional levels, weapons. In the perfect world, I'd love to see this game, 5 years from now, just with so much just awesome content that it's just a sea of different types of gameplay options and choices and additional creatures. We did a lot of cool stuff with objective mode during the end of the life cycle for Killing Floor 1. I would definitely like to see kind of more cool things like that. One thing that we have added that I'm pretty excited about is versus mode in Killing Floor 2. What that is, that's a 6v6. One side plays as the humans, plays the round. You see how far you can get. And then after that, you're scored on it, and then the opposing team switches, and then now they're on the human side. So everyone can, they can try playing, the bloat and the flesh pound and the scrake, and we've added really cool stuff like blocking, so you can be a bloat and like block and go up a hallway while everyone's shooting you, allowing other Zeds to go behind you and like run and flank, and so that's pretty cool. I mean, that's like a new type of thing, and we've always wanted to add that into a Killing Floor type game because we have so much diversity of different types of creatures.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome. And then I suppose the only other thing that I really wanted to touch upon is early access is a process that you guys have been through.
Yep.
And it's also a process that's got a hell of a lot of stigma because of some titles, let's not name names, Daisy, that have stayed in early access for I want to say they've been in for 2.5, heading on to 3 years now, or something mad like that. Have you found that there's been any sort of negativity coming out of the early access? Because I understand it's a great way to kind of feel out, are we going in the right direction? Should we add this? Should we add that? But have you had that sort of negative connotation of, oh God, it's the early access game, they're never going to finish this, there's not enough content, and that sort of thing? And how have you dealt with that?
I mean, that's definitely been a huge challenge. There's actually a lot of people who've been frustrated with us. They thought that we said the game was going to be done in 2015. And, even though we never said we're going to have the game done in 2015, I think the conundrum is to do an early access game right. And I know a lot of fans probably will get really mad at me for saying this. It actually does take quite a bit of time because people have to play it, and then you have to basically get their feedback. You have to digest it and kind of lift the veil and figure out what you're going to do about that feedback. And then you implement the feedback, but then they have to play it more.
Yeah.
And, so the more cycles you go with that, by the time the game's actually done full release, it's going to be that much better. So, I mean, I think, generally when people buy into early access, they shouldn't expect something to come out very quickly, because if it does, then it wasn't early access, it was more like a beta. Because generally in a beta, the developers consider it done. They're just trying to find some bugs. Maybe they'll tune something that's really messed up, but that's all that's going to happen. But with early access, at least the way I personally perceive it, it takes time in order to you might have a system fundamentally people don't like, and maybe the system itself could still work, but there might be things that need to be changed in the approach that you did it. And I would say if there was one thing that I would change with us doing early access, is I actually would have waited a little bit longer, had a little more additional content ready, but don't release it all at once and stagger it. Because I think a lot of people, especially people who aren't in this industry, don't realize how long it actually takes to make something and then make it good enough where people play it and then don't say it's crap. And even when you do that, you still get people that might say that anyway. So if we were to do early access title again, I would have it set up where we could stagger it. So every few weeks or a month, it's okay, here's this new thing and here's this new thing, because I think that's generally what the community expects.
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting insight, because I see where you're going. You know, like it also pulls that player base back in. Like, what's new. You know, check out this thing, and then in turn that gives you the feedback and the information and the analytics and whatever it is that you need for each additional update and each additional change. So that's it's interesting to see it from the other side, because you obviously hear from a very vocal gamer base side. Right. Oh God, burn them! But it's quite rare that you hear sort of quite so frankly spoken from the other side, so right. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, we've played it to death on PC. If you haven't already given it a whirl, it's now available. Well, it's available in full on consoles if you're not quite able to see all the gushing blood with your current PC setup. Definitely worth picking up. We've spent collectively hours and hours playing it, and I can see it coming to one of our community nights sometime soon. So I'm talking to you guys behind the camera. But yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, man. And we'll be keeping an eye on the progress over the coming months.
Cool.